Hi everybody, welcome to our Halloween video for 2020. Hey, this year we're going to build a companion table to go with our office setup that we started to create from a fallen pear tree in our backyard more than a year and a half ago. Should be fun. Stick with us. So the slabs I got from that pear tree trunk gave us enough to create that printer table to the left, this desktop in the center, but my wife really needs a side table for her reading chair. And we're going to use the same material for the top. I also wanted to use a design element that I did on the desk where I created an angle for these legs. And I want to do roughly the same thing for this side table. So the pieces that I have left in slab form are thick enough. They're about 1.5 inches thick, which will be great, but they're not big enough for a tabletop. So because of the twisted nature and the cupped nature of these boards, I'm going to have to cut these into pieces and put them together in sort of a butcher block design. And so because the twist was so pronounced in this long board, I'm going to cut these down. And for that wider piece, I'm going to cut it right down the center of the cup so that the boards lay flatter. And then screwing them down to a flat, straight edge, I'm going to run them through the table saw and create pieces that are about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And then I only had one straight 90-degree edge, so they all needed to be run through the planer to give me 4 square sides to each length. And I'm going to cut them into pieces here and put them together in a little bit of a butcher block design, staggering the short and the long pieces. And the Gorilla Glue is going to work really great for a butcher block top like this. Now I'm going to try a new joinery idea that I got out of Fine Woodworking magazine that uses threaded rods and epoxy to join the legs to the tabletop. And to check out the size of the drill and just to prototype it, I thought I'd try it on a piece of pear. I guess the pear tree's not quite dead yet. And so now we'll just square up the edges. But the overall table isn't quite the dimension that I'm looking for. I'm trying to get it to 14 inches by 14 inches, but I like the idea of adding some Australian Jarrah to the perimeter of the table, which trims it out to 14 inches, but it's also the same wood that I used on the desk legs, so it'll tie those colors together. And after some 45-degree cuts, we'll get this glued up. Gotta love the 4-corner clamp for sure. And then a little extra clamping in the middle. I know I've got some of that Ipe material that's going to be great for legs. We'll just have to dig it out. Nice piece of cherry. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that guy. We'll just take care of that. You didn't see anything. So based on the drawing, I wanted to stretch that leg all the way to the opposite end of that tabletop, but I wasn't quite sure of the angle. So I thought I'd measure it out. and then take a cut and check it. And once I was sure that the angle was right, I set up a stop block and then cut the other 3 legs at the same exact length. And because I don't have any fancy clamping system to put this little support piece on the leg, I'm going to use blue painter's tape, putting some tension on the backside and the front, and stretching it and pulling it together. And as much as I hoped that the 2 top sections would be flat, in the end they weren't. So we'll let the epoxy cure. But sure enough, it's off by about 1/2 degree, but that's okay. I can set it up in my crosscut sled in a jig and take a clean cut across both surfaces. And now I know they'll sit flat. Now I just need to check out how they're going to look on the tabletop. But a visit from a friend. Oh, hey Bob. Are you here for a visit or are you here for a snack? The workroom felt a little crowded this afternoon. And I set up each piece on my vacuum table here and finished it out with 320 grit paper. Now I had cut the threaded rod into pieces, but the edges were kind of jagged with the bolt cutter, so a little cleanup and a fireworks show. I also made a template so that when I drilled holes into the leg sections and the tabletop, the holes would be in the exact spot every time. And then I have a depth guard set up on my drill bit so that I didn't go too deep. I left the holes a little sloppy in terms of diameter so that there was room for epoxy to fill in. But it was still a pretty snug fit. Somebody's checking out my work. Then I mixed up some more epoxy, but I added some wood flour to it to give it some thickness and some body, and then when I put it down in the holes, it wouldn't leak out. It's almost the consistency of thin peanut butter, but that really works out well as a binder. I used it a ton in my canoe build project. And there was some squeeze out that had to be cleaned up. I didn't have a great way to clamp these down, but I did check them with the level so that they were plumb. But I had some of these 10-kilogram weights, and they held the legs down really nicely. The weights actually put enough support on the leg to hold them down, and as it turns out, it worked out great. I don't really usually show a lot of the finishing steps, but In order to match the sheen of the other two furniture pieces, I'm going to stick with satin polyurethane. And finally, it looks great with the chair. And the angle of the leg looks really terrific. You have to look at it to make sure that it's actually going to stand on its own. It's the same thing with the legs on my desk. They're set up in the shape of a fulcrum, and you can't quite figure out why the tabletop is stable. But it's a great combination. The pieces look great together. And now, a little extra. Gotta dig the slow-mo. And one more to finish it off. Hey everybody, have a great Halloween. Thanks for joining us.